Alright guys, today we're going to be doing one of my most requested videos. If any of you have watched any of my streams, you'll know I have a few 120 ships on my account. And so one of the most asked questions I get at almost every stream is how do I level up my ships? So in this video, I'm going to explain my process of leveling up my ships. I'm not going to say it's the best process, but it's the one that I use. One thing I want to get over right off the bat is what is an effective, efficient way to grind? Well, there's different definitions of efficiency. Time efficiency, oil efficiency. For example, a lot of people may tell you this gives you the most experience per oil. However, in my opinion, time is the most valuable. So I'm looking for time efficiency. This comes in two forms. How quickly I can get my ship from level 1 to level 120, and equally as important, how much actual grind I have to be present for. I put a lot of weight on passive EXP gain. If I can be gaining experience while I'm not actually playing the game, or while I am doing other facets of the game, that is a huge bonus for me. So let's say I just get a new ship, like this Ariake here, who, if you guys don't know, I got the skin in the lucky bag. Anyway, she's level 1, and let's say I want to get her to level 120 ASAP. Well, the first thing that I have to do is we have to deal with this stranger part. There is Affinity. I have an Affinity guide on this, but in short, we need to get her to 100 Affinity ASAP, so if we want to oath her, we can, and otherwise we can use that to the benefit of getting morale, which gives us an EXP boost. The fastest way to gain affinity or intimacy is putting them in your leftmost secretary slot, this one right here. However, there is a cap at 90, so we can passively gain this affinity by putting her in here. But once we're at 90, whether we go from 90 to 100 or 90 to 200 if they're oath, we are going to have to do that the hard way by grinding. So the first thing I do is I make sure that I put my ship that I want to grind into the secretary spot, and then you got to make sure that they are in the leftmost spot. Now the second thing that we're going to do now that they are secretary is to go into the dorm. This is another passive EXP gain. Putting them in the dorm is vital to gaining not only passive experience, but also it prevents you from losing morale if you're going to be using this ship in battles, which battling is the best way to level up your ships. A lot of times when someone asks me how to level up their ships, I'll say very briefly, just play the game. However, this video is going to be a little bit more in depth of like the very minute details that I do to help speed up the process and save myself some headache. But generally, if you're just playing the game and you're just grinding the ship that you want to level, that's the best way. There's not too many shortcuts. In addition to the dorm, I want to point out that if you go to the lecture hall or the classroom, you can actually put your ships in here. Now, each day has a different set of ships that can be put in the classroom. That means that any particular ship will have 2 days a week that they can be put in the classroom. If your classroom is leveled up, the passive EXP that you gain from the classroom is greater than you do with the dorm, even with food. So during the 2 days of the week that the ship that I particularly want to level can be put in the classroom, I put them in the classroom. You can't put them in the classroom and the dorm at the same time, so you do have to pull them out of the dorm. So that means 2 days of the week they're in the classroom, 5 days of the week they're in the dorm. And always until they hit 90 affinity, we are going to have them as the leftmost secretary. Next up is the 10-hour commission. This commission is infamous. You'll probably hear a lot about this. You should always have this 10-hour commission of some sort. I believe lower level players have a variant of this 10-hour commission, but it's been a while since I've had that variant. Anyway, this commission gives 18,000 experience, which is more experience than any other commission. It lasts 10 hours, so it's going for a long time, and it costs 1,200 oil. You'll probably hear about this all over the internet guides about Azur Lane grinding, and they'll tell you that this is not an efficient way to get experience. And I'll tell you this right now, if you were gonna go grind 1-2, the experience per oil spent is going to be greater at 1-2 than it is in this commission. But remember when I said time is important, this is passive EXP gain, and you'll always have one of these in your daily commissions, which means you can always be doing one if you have the oil. Almost every night I go to sleep, I put my ships in this commission. Why not gain passive EXP while I'm sleeping? Is it less oil efficient? Of course. Is it more time efficient? totally. Mind you, the amount of runs that you need to do in Chapter 2, such as 2-4, to get that experience is tremendous. While you are getting 18,000 experience, you can do that just by sitting for 10 hours. You can log off, doesn't matter. But here, you have to be grinding this the whole time. So not only can I not log off, but I can't do other things. So if I want to grind Operation Siren, I can't because I'm grinding whatever 2-4 or 2-1 or whatever map I'm grinding at the higher EXP to oil ratio. I'm using my time. I can't do 2 grinds on the same account at the same time. So I really do think this commission is important to utilize. Now, it is important to note that oil is extremely important come events. If there are events, I tend to lower down the amount of times I use the commission. During events, I don't use the commission during any waking hours, and sometimes I'll forego them at night. But if there are no events, I don't see why you don't use it when you're going to sleep. And with that, we have all the passive gains. We have the secretary slot, we have the dorm, we have the classroom, and we have the commissions. And so right away, that's typically what I sit on. The only exception to this rule is the hard modes. Hard modes are the most important thing for you to do. If you don't have a lot of time and you are a daily login warrior, hard modes are the most important thing for you to do. You only have to do 3 of them a day. They're really quick. Once you safe mode a hard mode like this, you actually just get spawned the boss right immediately. So I look at hard modes as a sunk cost for time as well as oil for the most part. So I will time my 10-hour commissions around when I log in for them to be just done. Then I'll take the ship that I'm trying to level and incorporate them into a fleet for my hard mode. Now I do the hardest hard mode that I can, and that is 11-2 basically, or chapter 11 hard modes. And so I'll try to incorporate them into this fleet. If they die, it's not a huge loss. You can only do 3 hard modes per day, so they're not going to lose that much morale. If they do die, you do lose the S-clear mode, so you are trying to actually get them to work. But at the early stages here, they're too low of a level to really make a huge impact. You can put them in the middle of your fleet if they're in the vanguard, or on the side if they're in the main fleet, but I do get some A clears here. However, once they get leveled up and you limit break them, you should be able to start using them with stronger ships in your hard modes. And so this is the only real battling that they do for the first 9 days. Yes, I said 9 days because that's pretty much how long we have to sit here in the secretary to get that passive grind. So once they get that intimacy to 90 here, they are capped. There is no benefit from keeping them in that slot. Move on to the next ship. And now this is where the real grind begins. At this point, you should be close to 80, 90 levels, depending on how aggressive you are being. You should be max limit breaked. And now we can actually start using the ship. I only have a limited amount of time to play the game, and I typically don't like playing these lower level maps. I like playing higher level maps where I can grind. I still need droppable ships, and these purple plates are still very important for me. So if I'm wasting my time on low level chapters, that's not what I'm looking to do because I already have a lot of things I need to grind. However, I will put this in Notion. If you are really itching to play and level that ship quickly, you can grind 3-4 pretty easily on any of these low-level ships if you have it on safe mode. And for newer players, it does drop your repair toolkits. So we've moved on and we have a max limit break level 80 or 90 ship with 90 affinity. And then when you put them with all plus 10 level equips, which I have plenty, you can effectively start doing chapter 8 with 1-1 fleets, especially if that other ship you're pairing them with is a strong ship or over level. At this point, I do not always grind. If it is a ship I need ASAP for meta reasons, such as Shinano, I will pull the ship out of the passive gains from the commissions. Obviously, I keep them in the dorm still. Anytime you are leveling the ship by grinding, you should have them in the dorm, even if it is a classroom day. That morale experience boost is worth it. So if it's a ship like Shinano I need leveled immediately for the meta breaking, I will pull them out of that stuff and I'll start grinding 8-4. I don't do this for ships I don't need immediately, like Pola, for example. I won't be using her until Victorio Veneto comes out, so I am passively gaining her experience for a little bit longer and not hardcore grinding her. But if it's a ship like Shinano or a ship that I need ASAP, I'm going to grind at this point, and I'm going to do it with 8-4. One of the nice things about 8-4 is we're actually going to be getting some experience for our time invested here. We're also going to be doubling up on getting those purple plates or tier 3 plates, which are always going to be something you need to grind for. But the real reason we have to do 8-4 is because the amount of mob fleets we have to defeat for the boss to spawn is less than normal. It's only 4. Typically at this range, it's 5. And further up the ladder where experience is higher, it's 6 or 7. So at 4, we can fight a boss battle every 5 fights instead of every 6, 7, or 8 in the other maps. Boss fights give more experience than mob fights. They cost the same amount of oil to do, and for the most part, the time is about the same. So in terms of experience to oil efficiency and experience to time efficiency, 8-4 is pretty much the best. It's also easily manageable to level up your ships if you have good equipments on them. Of course, we're doing 1-1 because the MVP bonus is amazing. If we can get our 1-1 fleet to MVP bonus the ship we are leveling, it makes our life so much quicker. If you guys have watched any of my live streams, you probably noticed that I typically do 3-3 fleets, and that's because I need to grind 3 ships at the same time. It does save me time by doing that. However, 1-1 fleets allow you to have the ship you're targeting get the MVP. But if you were to use the 1-1 fleets for the 3 ships individually, you would take 3 times as long, but you would actually get higher experience to oil ratio. It really depends on how much time you have. If I really need to grind up the ship and I'm concerned about oil, which if I'm grinding up the ship like this, I will be because I'm going to have to save oil for the next event, I will do 1-1 fleets at 8-4, or maybe 1-2 depending on the ship and what I have available. Also, if you are during an event, which a lot of times you will because you're picking up the ship from an event, grind that ship in the event. Don't waste your oil on the main campaign when an event is going on and you can get some event currency. Build your fleet around that ship. It's newer, so you probably will have to use stronger ships around it to get it to carry, and you won't get the MVP bonus, but you're going to be grinding the event anyway, so you might as well do it. So once I get to about level 110, whether that's by grinding the event, doing the hard modes, doing 8-4 if I really need to up it, and getting all the passive gains here, typically at this point I'm also at 100 affinity or more if I've oathed this particular ship, and now the journey just begins. If you guys don't know, the experience gain is super exponential in Azur Lane, and the amount of XP you need from 1 to 110 is about the same as from 110 to 120. This is really grueling, and this is where using those passive EXP gains are not going to make much dent. 18,000 experience is not going to make a dent at level 115. However, I still typically do them. Every little bit helps. I definitely keep them in the dorm. But where do I grind? Well, I want to grind at the highest chapter. The higher the chapter, the more experience that you get. And at level 110 or 115, we have access to do most of the maps. I have a lot of things on safe mode, so that helps too. And World 13 is a little challenging because it requires a lot of anti-air. And if we're leveling a ship that's not particularly strong in that area, it becomes very difficult. But it's not the only reason we don't grind at 13. We grind at World 12. The reason that is particularly it's a little bit easier. And if we have it on safe mode and I have a level 110 or 115 ship, I can put them in a 3-3 fleet and they'll be able to clear. Not to mention, with clearing mode on, it allows us to use the AES function, the one that allows the bot to pretty much do all the map for us, and we don't have to do as much. So I can be doing other work while I'm grinding with this in the background on my computer. I particularly use 12-4 because that is the highest level that you can go and still use AES. Using 3-3 fleets is not a concern for me. There is such a wall that you hit in experience gain when you hit level 110 or 120. For this reason, I particularly have a lot of ships in that level range. I do have a lot of 120 ships, but I have a lot of not at 120 yet. I have tons of ships that I need to get up there, and certainly there are specific ships that I will prioritize because I need to test them for meta reasons. So I never really have a lack of ships in that range that I can put into 12-4 with 6 ships in that 110 to 120 range, not quite at 120 yet, where they're gaining experience towards 120 and they are still competent enough to complete this mission. I think it's important to note at this point to consider your PR grinds. If you only super care about leveling one ship in particular, but you still need the 3-3 fleet or a 3-2 fleet to clear 12-4, I use the other slots to grind the PR ship that I'm particularly using. So if I were to use, say, Ibuki, I would be putting in my Vanguard ships that are IJN. If I'm trying to level a ship that's a Vanguard ship that's not IJN, I'll just use 2 of the IJN ones, and I'll hope that I can overlevel the map. And this is where the grind truly begins here. It does take some time. Make sure all of your ships are in your dorm, or at the very least, if you don't have enough slots, put them in the second floor if you have it. And really, it's just a grind. Make sure you have enough coins and cognitive chips so that you can meet the 100, 105, 110, and 115 marks of levels, which you have to surpass with those chips and coins. Once you're a veteran enough, it's not going to be too much of an issue, though. You'll have plenty. And with that, you'll have your 120 ship in no time. If you continue to grind, you'll be able to get 200 Affinity if you oath them. There's a promise crate in the shop right now. Make sure to go buy that. It's a great use of your free-to-play gems. One side note is that subs are a little bit different. They typically are more passive. It costs a lot of oil to bring your subs into the fleet, and they typically aren't going to be getting much. You do need to bring them into some battles so you can get that Affinity past 90, but generally subs are really slow to grind. However, if you are grinding subs, your account is probably pretty loaded because subs are very endgame content. Alright guys, hopefully this video shared some insight into how I get all of my 120 ships. I'm not saying this is the steadfast best way, but it's the way that I have been playing this game for a very long time. Feel free to take any of the tactics I told you about and modify them to how you want to play the game. Ultimately, when people ask me how to level their ships, I say just play the game. Don't burn yourself out. Play as you want. There are a few tricks that will allow you to grind a little bit faster and save you some headache, but generally there's not really that many shortcuts in Azur Lane when it comes to getting to level 120. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you play Azur Lane and you're not subscribed to the channel yet, I don't know why. I have a 10-hour stream tomorrow celebrating hitting the 5-digit mark. So please come join the community, come join the stream tomorrow, and good luck on your grinds.